Us 21st century humans have come up with an awful lot of entertaining ways of filling up the few free moments in our overscheduled lives. We sing and dance, we surf and ski, we cavort and canoodle and watch TV. But what diversion do we love most of all? Man, oh man, we love to spend. Now, some folks say our obsession with shopping reflects a certain decadence, a certain self-indulgence. But I say every time we whip out a piece of plastic and slap it down to buy some fresh bling bling, we're taking part in a noble tradition, the evolution of capitalism. But now a new phase of capitalism is upon us, the age of e-commerce. An age that's changed the way that business works, the way we buy and sell. An age ushered in by a transformative technology, the World Wide Web, and by two of its seminal companies, Amazon.com and eBay. It's easy to forget just how revolutionary these companies were when they first burst upon the scene back in the 1990s, how they shook big business to its very core.
Ever since the Industrial Revolution, corporations had always been based on the power of high-flying executives sitting in their gilded offices way up there, with the consumer almost as an afterthought. But now Amazon and eBay were creating a whole new model of commerce, one based on taking the internet and harnessing the power of the great mass of individuals down here at street level.
My name is John Heilemann, and as a journalist, I've covered the e-commerce revolution from the start. Hanging around with the guys and gals who made it happen. The story I'm here to tell you is about the high-tech innovations that underpin that revolution, and about the enormous economic upheaval that it unleashed.
It's a story of a boom, a bubble, a bust, and a resurrection. And it's a story that helps explain why, despite what we may think, even the worst financial meltdowns are incredibly, amazingly, and unexpectedly a good thing for all of us.
It's almost a cliche, but if you're searching for the next big thing in high tech, the best place to look is a garage.
Ah, yes, the almighty garage. The place where, according to high-tech lore, the greatest startups were incubated. Hewlett-Packard, Apple, the list goes on and on.
The garage we're interested in today was the birthplace of Amazon.com. It was in suburban Seattle and belonged to a guy named Jeff Bezos. Bezos started out on Wall Street in the early 1990s. He was highly analytical, a spreadsheet junkie. And when the web came along, he started thinking in a systematic way about its unique properties and what kinds of stuff it would be ideal for selling. He made list after list, and always at the top was books.
There are millions of books active and in print around the world, and you could build something online that just couldn't exist any other way. There's no way to have a physical bookstore with millions of titles.
Bezos launched Amazon in the summer of 1995. Around the same time, down in Silicon Valley, another young guy, Pierre Omidyar, was thinking hard about the web too. Today, Omidyar is a multi-billionaire, but back then he was just another idealistic software programmer, but one who had an interesting idea, the idea that would become eBay.
In the beginning, Pierre Omidyar and Jeff Bezos shared one thing in common. They thought of the web as a place to do business and not just goof around. But apart from that, Pierre was from Venus and Jeff was from Mars. They couldn't have been more different. Where Jeff was about the business plan, the market research, the methodical analysis, Pierre, well, he didn't have a business plan. He hadn't done any market research. He was just a humble software coder who thought that the idea of making an online auction site sounded pretty cool. It was an idea that he could take care of all by himself, tapping away at his home computer.
I thought that you could maybe use the web and use the power of this technology to bring people in one place to create a marketplace, a market mechanism that was actually truly efficient, where regular people could compete on a level playing field with the big players. And so that's what I set out to do with eBay.
Omidyar believed that an auction site on the web would be fairer and more accessible than any existing market. So he decided to make it happen all by himself over one long holiday weekend in September 1995.
As the first visitors started trickling into Omidyar's site, the pickings they found there were mighty slim. A bunch of computer-related stuff, plus an extremely random assortment of items. Autographed celebrity underwear, a toy fire engine, a superhero lunchbox. I mean, my God, Does this look like the makings of startup glory and transformational business potential, or a pile of useless secondhand junk? If you're thinking the latter, well, that's one more reason why you're not a billionaire, and Pierre Omidyar is.
Some measure of success came to Amazon and eBay almost immediately. Within months of launching his site, Omidyar was earning thousands of dollars in fees. And in the first 30 days after Amazon went live, with its first employees sitting at desks made out of doors and sawhorses they'd assembled themselves, the site shipped books to 45 different countries and all 50 US states. Amazon's original headquarters was in the seediest part of Seattle and was a bare-bones affair. But despite the threadbare nature of their digs, Amazon's early workers were jazzed to be part of Bezos' dream.
All of my colleagues were very excited. They really felt like they had some sort of tiger by the tail. And you could really sense it. You know, it wasn't like going into your average workplace. They all felt like, you know, we are going to be making history here.
The early success of Amazon and eBay didn't go unnoticed on Wall Street, where certain analysts were startled to discover just how fast the web was spreading. One of the most prominent was Henry Blodgett, who would become one of the poster boys of the boom, and later, one of the scapegoats for the bust.
Suddenly, the company started putting up incredible numbers, quarter after quarter, and the traffic growth was so far beyond what anyone had ever mentioned to me. It was literally astounding to look at it and say, how could it be growing this quickly?
This was explosive growth, for sure. But what was driving it? Well, to answer that, we need to get a little bit geeky. We have to understand the collision of two technologies and the pair of laws that made them unique in the history of mankind. The first technology was the silicon chip, governed by what's called Moore's Law. Coined by Intel co-founder Gordon Moore more than 40 years ago, Moore's Law states that the speed and power of integrated circuits, from microprocessors to memory chips, doubles every 18 months. Now, your first reaction to that might be, so what?
The point of doubling is that if you look over time at how many steps of doubling it takes to get a preposterously large number, you don't need that many steps. So for example, to go from 1 to 1,000,000, you only need 20 steps. And so in very few steps, you get tremendous growth.
This logic-defying doubling stems from engineers' ability to make transistors smaller and smaller. And it's why computers have gone from giant machines that fill up entire rooms to super powerful laptops in what amounts to the blink of an eye. But Moore's Law is only half of the story behind the technological miracle of the web. The other half is a rule known as Metcalfe's Law, coined by Robert Metcalfe, inventor of Ethernet. Metcalfe's Law says that every new node, meaning something like your computer, that's added to the network doesn't just increase the network's value by +1, the curve is much, much steeper than that. It's the Moore's Law of connectivity, and this is how it works.
If we have 2 users, then that's one connection between them. They can each talk to each other. So let's add another user. If we have 3 users, then that gets you 3 possible connections. If we go to adding another user, that gets you 6 connections. So we're seeing some growth here. Let's jump up a little bit more. If you go to 10 users, there are actually 45 possible connections between pairs of users. So notice that the growth is quite steep, in fact.